Free your mind now. Be part of People's Pan-African Parliament, the Pan-African Pyramid Debate with your speaker, Andrew Irumba Katusabe.
Pan-African Weekly Roundup, Andrew Irumba Katusabe, your speaker, with the comrade Lissafri Thomas from France, a freelance journalist, a recipient of the most prestigious Pan-African Pyramid Global Award 2023 recipient, Comrade Lissafri. You're welcome.
Thank you so much to have me again today.
Follow us on our social media platforms, the Pan-African Pyramid, the YouTube channel, and the Spy Television. But of course, every Saturday from 4 to 5, this show runs on MBS Television, our partner, sponsor in Pan-Africanism. Comrade Lissafri.
Yes.
At least by this morning,
yes,
2,000 people have been killed in Israel attacks on Lebanon, including 127 children and 261 women. Children who are innocent, 127, and those are the ones that have been able to count. Women who are supposed to be in the kitchen, who are supposed to be looking after the children, 261 of them are dying.
Killed.
Because two men are disagreeing on politics. Politics is that politics or politics? That's no longer politics. That becomes now politics, because politics is supposed to be a science of managing people.
Yes.
From good to from worse to good to better.
Yes.
When you do the opposite, it becomes politics.
It definitely.
It's like leadership. When you are leading people from bad to good, you're a leader. When you are doing the opposite, from good to bad, you're a misleader.
Yes. I see. Yeah, it is definitely misleading the people. We can say that Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, is definitely misleading his people. And I think like something here as Pan-African, we need to be really clear on what is happening in Middle East, right? We have said that in previous show, we're gonna restate that here again and again. Israel presence in the Middle East, it's a colonial project. Okay, so
Israel presence
in Middle East is a colonial project. Those people have took the land of Palestinians in 1946 during the Nakba. It is clear that they follow the same tradition that colonialism that used to make many victims here in Africa. So we do know that when we hear the word terrorist. From Uganda we know, and obviously from the whole continent, the South Africans remembering it, when we hear the word terrorists, we should be really concerned, because often freedom fighters will be called terrorists until they win, and when they win, only when they win, they become freedom fighters. But the truth is they were freedom fighters from the beginning. And now there's a big confusion, there's a lot of confusion because the Hamas, which is a freedom fighters movement of Palestinians, since 1 year have been almost destroyed and killed, right? So what we observe is Israel leading a war in Middle East that make many victims, and as you said, especially victims that have nothing to do with military and wars, right?
Children, really, imagine.
Children's. And why is it like this? It is like this because you have a high density of population in that region, and if you send like missile, like for example, they send 80 missiles to kill one man called Hassan Nasrallah, 80 different missiles. Well, they were trying
only one person.
They were trying to kill the man since 30 years. So when they managed to locate him, they went hard on him. Hassan Nasrallah considered himself also as a spiritual leader and a freedom fighter, but he was considered as a terrorist. But as a terrorist, he was a really efficient one, you might say, because he has built up the biggest army, the biggest paramilitary army in the entire world. And what it means is that the amount of violence that Israel is deploying in Middle East always turn back against Israel. So it's one thing to really understand here. It's like a lot of people will polarize the debate. Are you pro-Palestinians or pro-Israeli? And unfortunately, we have a lot of pastors that influence that confusion here. There is no debate about are we against or in favor or against. We say clearly we say clearly that the violence that
should not
Israel
happen.
sent to the Middle East come back to Israel all the time. And 7th of October, 1 year ago, right, when you and I started to work together, we saw that violence.
Hey,
right?
Today is our first anniversary.
It's the first anniversary.
Hey! Today is our first anniversary.
Today first anniversary.
We started working together on this very day.
Because maybe we can tell our audience why we started working together. Because 7th of October happened, so there were many attacks. And I noticed that Ugandan's media particularly were not really speaking of the colonial situation. They were not saying that Palestinians have been colonized by settlers, right? And those settlers are Israelis and have nothing to do in the region, right? No one was saying that it's a colonial project, it's an imperialist project in Middle East. So I contacted you because obviously as Pan-African, we do know that imperialism will always fail, colonialism will always fail, and neocolonialism will fail the people as well. So we knew that this type of situation cannot be forever. We knew that cannot be forever.
Can't last long.
So unfortunately it's been 1 year and we wish we could have tell you that Israel only fight Palestine, but we know that it has nothing to do with just Palestinian. It is a hegemonic project that brings a lot of settlers. Someone like Netanyahu, he has passed a lot of his life outside of Israel. He came back to Israel as a politician.
He only came back to Israel.
He studied in the US, he married a wife in the US, he did everything in the US. His life was in the US. Like many other Israelis, he has connection in the US, so he was evolving mainly in the US. But his family was a Zionist family. So Zionism, we explained, is that ideology that Jewish people should live in the land that they call Israel, right? When other Jewish people are saying that Zionism is a fake ideology because the destruction of the temple by the God of the Jews back in the day, 5,000 years ago, was the signal that the Jewish community should not stay in that land of Israel. So there's different paradigm inside the Jewish community itself, right? And so Netanyahu used to be, Netanyahu's father and grandfather were ideologists. They were people that were Zionist ideology, that Jewish people should take over the old places and then should be apologetic about it because it is their own land.
They simply come and conquer.
They simply come and conquered, and they forget what happened in the 5,000 years between 1946 and the destruction of the temple. Netanyahu, as a family, as a Zionist family, had a big drama in their life. Something happened that changed the whole game. And interestingly, that thing happened here in Uganda, a few kilometers away.
Wait.
Few kilometers away.
That thing that changed Netanyahu family.
Yes.
That act happened in Uganda.
The very similar act. Today we're observing a madman, Netanyahu, running all around and starting conflict.
He looks to be.
Yeah, maybe mad is a bit rude, but like in terms of war, he's definitely a warlord. He's doing war in Gaza. He has killed 41,000 people in Gaza and 80% of the building available. Now he has started a war against Lebanon 1 week ago only, and you already tell us like there's 2,000 people being killed, including children, including women.
That can be accounted for anyway.
So how do you call that? A warlord, right? When did he start to get into this idea that Israel can only win with military force and no negotiation can happen and no peace can happen with Arabs or Muslims? Is after the death of the killing of his brothers. If you remember well, Netanyahu's brothers was killed here in Uganda, in Entebbe, few kilometers away from here, wherever you're watching this show, here in Kampala, few kilometers away.
Netanyahu's brother, Benjamin Netanyahu's brother was killed from Uganda.
Killed from Uganda, and the military called first Benjamin Netanyahu, the current Prime Minister of Israel, to announce his family that his brother was killed. And only one Israeli military operational was killed in that assault. Only one.
One person.
His brother.
His brother.
When his brother died here in Uganda.
Which year was that?
I don't want to make a mistake with the wrong year, but you will check. It's the Entebbe.
Go ahead.
It's the Entebbe attack on OLP.
Go ahead.
So when he received that phone calls, he knew Now he needs to be the head of the family. He needs to take over his brother that used to be fighting for Zionism, which is the presence of Jewish people in the Middle East. They used to be fighting for it, and now he had to take the leadership of the family and shows that they're fighting for Israel. So he left the US, resettled in Israel. And when he resettled in Israel, he started politics. But that's something really important to understand. When we say resettled, the word that we should all hear is settling. And settling, it's a colonial word. There used to be settlers in South Africa, there used to be settlers in Kenya, there used to be settlers in Rhodesia that become Zimbabwe. And all of those settlers were always acting the same. And it is important that we see those trends in history where settlers come somewhere, develop their own economy, but also develop their own paranoia, and that forbid them from being empathetic to the people of Middle East, to the people surrounding them. Right? It was the same with white South African. It was the same with white French at Algerian time. It was the same with white in Kenya's. The colonial life dehumanize others, and because you dehumanize others, now you can attack them. And that's what we observe in Middle East. We observe that Netanyahu has totally dehumanized his enemies, and he's ruthless. He's ruthless.
Okay, his brother was called Jonathan Yoni Netanyahu.
Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan Yoni Netanyahu. He was born on March 13th, 1946 and died on July 4th, 1976 at the age of 30. He was killed in Entebbe, right?
Which date you said? Which year was it?
July 4th, 1976. He was born in 46, he died in 76.
He died in 76.
Yes, at the age of 30.
So you see how
Jonathan Yoni Netanyahu.
Our history always relate and interlace, you know. So what we see now is an attack. They have attacked Lebanon, right? Israel is attacking Lebanon, and Iran is attacking Israel. And in the middle of all that, we kind of tend to forget that the Palestinians, it's a spasm of the Palestinian questions. They all fight back Israel because of what Israel is doing to Palestinians. But what we really observe is an unequal fight. It's an absolutely unequal fight, where Israel have disseminated Hezbollah leadership already. If you would have asked me before, I would have told you they will stop the war the day they kill Hassan Nasrallah, because Hassan Nasrallah was the main important leaders to catch in Middle East. That was the main important target of Israel since years and years, and I thought they will fight him for like maybe 1 year, 2 years, until they finally find him, kill him, and announce it's the end of the war. What scares me is that now it is just the beginning of the war, and they are already they have reached a point where Hassan Nasrallah is dead. Many bombs, they're bombing Beirut like if their own land. Like imagine if Kenyans would come and bomb us in Kampala. We would not find that normal, right? They're bombing Beirut saying that it's their national security, blah, 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 blah. But what they're really doing is, you know do you know how Israeli military speak of this operation? Israeli military speaks of this, and those are not my words, please don't, I'm putting comma. They say that Israel is a house in the middle of the jungles. And then
Israel is a house in the middle of the jungle.
So the house represent the civilization in their mind that they bring. The jungle is the Middle East. And so they say, therefore, Israel's job is to cut the grass really often. They need to cut the grass really often because otherwise the jungle take over the house. So
in this context, who is the grass?
In this context, cutting the grass is killing the people around Israel. So it's Hezbollah, it's Hamas, it's the Houthis, maybe it's the Iranian regime. We don't know how far
clearing the grass.
But clearing the grass in this context means like bombing your neighbors so they stay quiet. That's what it means.
Don't make noise for us.
Don't make noise for us. And so when you hear those type of
America is following that, is supporting that.
Listen, America is in an election. And so the truth is, Americans right now are focused on the election. They don't really care much about what's happening around the world. You need to remember, American people, they're not really well educated in world affairs.
Americans are not well educated.
They're not well educated. They don't have free educations. Those guys, it's very expensive to be receiving a good education in the US. So the majority of Americans don't receive good educations. So when they are told that Israelis are Americans and Americans are Israelis, and then Israel is fighting in the Middle East for the survival of the Jews, they buy the idea.
They simply take it.
They simply take it. And right now they don't even care. They're asking themselves, should they vote for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? So when Donald Trump or Kamala Harris will win the election, then we have a chance for that conflict to stop. But now Netanyahu is really smart, and he knows that he can do whatever he wants because the US are unable to stop him. They're busy in the elections. And Biden doesn't have so much power. He cannot discipline Netanyahu anymore. But it's been a long time that the US have lost any sort of power it's been a long time they lost power towards Israel. Israel is doing things on its own like a wild dog in Middle East, and unfortunately it damaged both the image of Israelis, of Americans, and of people supporting the war.
Very good. Mr. Lisafri, tell me the science between Iran attacking Israel, and instead of Israel retaliating to Iran, it is instead attacking Lebanon.
Yeah.
Iran is attacking Israel.
Yes.
Israel is attacking Lebanon.
Yes.
So what is the science here?
So it turns out that
I am attacking your country.
Yes.
Instead of me retaliating directly to you,
yes,
I'm retaliating to another country.
Yes.
What does that country have got to do with you?
Listen, you know this say never two without three, right?
Come again?
Never two without three. You heard about that?
No.
Maybe to say that is in English.
You're speaking French now.
They say never two without three, which means what happened twice will happen a third time, right? And so
you are speaking French again.
So what's happening here when I say never two without three is that Israel have won the last two wars against Arabs' armies. So twice Arab made coalitions to defeat Sahal, the Israeli army, in Israel, and twice they lost. So after two defeats, they said, no, let's don't go on a third one. We need to change strategy, right? And the strategy become clear. Rather than having one country fronting Israel, we should create paramilitary groups that will support Palestinian cause and that will fight Israel due to that. And we, Iran, will support those Palestinian cause. Like Mobutu used to do sometime back in the day with the rebel movement. If he wanted to destabilize Central Africa, he would finance a rebel movement, right? In that case, it's more paramilitaries, right? So what Iran is doing is simple. He goes to the population that are poor, and then he helps them organize and mobilize by giving them food, by giving them shelters, and all this. So now they organize and they will fight Israel in the name of Iran, in their own name, but with Iranians' weapons, right? Do you see what I mean? So now it's like a grip, right? Here is Israel, and what Iran is trying to do is to put like a grip around it with different paramilitary groups that can attack Israel whenever Iran decide. That's the original idea. So when Israel decided to move its focus from Gaza, because they already have killed 40,000 people and destroyed 80% of the buildings, and not only they destroyed 80% of the building, but if you look on social media, they do it with pride. I was really ashamed preparing that show to watch like videos of Israeli soldiers using explosive to destroy buildings and laughing about the fact that
pride in it.
Pride and
as if they're doing something good.
And laughing about the fact
humanity.
That no Palestinian will never ever come back here. That's what they say. And that's what the goal that they're possessing. The goal of Israel is to and of Netanyahu, not Israel actually, just Netanyahu, is to make sure there's no more Palestinians in the land of Palestine. So the problem is closed. If there's no more Palestinians in the land of Palestine, then there should not be more Palestinian causes, right? So he's really pushing. He has been really pushing hard, and there is massive killing. And we have interview of him saying those things in 1987, 1988 in the U.S. when he was an American citizen working in the U.S. defending Israel. He used to say, no, we want Palestinians to live in other Arab states. go to Jordania, go to Saudi
to
Arabia.
Israel.
But Israel is our land, and we will not share it. So that question is a long question. So when they move focus from Palestine, they move focus to north of Israel and Lebanon, right? And Lebanon has a really weak army, because they have had a long civil war. So for a long time, the country could not. Making a strong army would means like arming some community against other communities. Lebanon is a country that is really multicultural. It's the exact reverse of Israel. Israel is only ethnically for the Jewish, right? If you're not Jewish, you don't have right in Israel, right? If you are in Palestine, you are 12 communities: Armenians, Catholics, Christians, Muslims, Shiites, Sunni. There's a lot of communities in Lebanon that live together, and that's what Israel is trying to kill. Israel is trying to kill the political model that shows that people that are different
can live together in harmony.
Can live together in harmony, which Israel.
For them, they want only one race.
Only one ethnic group.
One ethnic group.
One ethnic group, which for them is the Jewish that have their own state, and they say we do not want to share with Palestinians, right? That being said,
America is supporting such because they are with Israel.
Listen, the reality is that Israel could not exist without American support, especially when it came to technology. Because the type of technology that Israel has to fight in Middle East are technology that are derivated from Americans' army, right? So that bomb, they kill Hassan Nasrallah, right? The way they kill Hassan Nasrallah, they send bombs first, and then they send like super powerful bomb that blast the bunker on which Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, was having his meeting, right, to organize the resistance. He wasn't even killed by the bomb himself, because the bunker was like 30 meters down. He was killed by the blast of the bomb. So to make a bomb that is able to penetrate 30 meters in the building, then reach a bunker, and only in the bunker blast the whole damn thing, that is because they have American technology. If Americans don't allow that, you won't have access to it. The same way that they give certain weapons to Ukraine and others they don't give to Ukraine. They've done the same with Israel. And so now it is quite clear that whichever nation is arming and giving weapons to Israel should stop. Because those guys are inside some sort of a crazy mad. It's even difficult to put word on this moment, because now the question is, are they going to attack Iran? And we know that Iranians don't want war. They've been saying clearly they do not want a war against Israel. They've been saying it clearly. But if Israel push it too far, they will have to fight back. And unfortunately, when Iranian fights, and I'm saying that because I've had the chance to be in Iran to listen to all soldiers, they don't give up. Is one of those pride, is one of that old country. You know, Iran was a country of Persia since at the time of the Egyptians. You can find in the pyramids that the Egyptians and the Babylonians used to deal with Persian people. And when you go to the capital of Persia, which is Iran today, right, Persepolis, you see African people built on on culture that comes to give to Darius, the king of the Persians, some food, and those are Ethiopians. So we know that Iran and Africa have had a long journey together, long history together, and Iranians have a long history of fighting for their dignity and independence, and they will not give up on that.
Just like Haitians.
Last time they fight, it was supposed to be a 2-month war against Iraq. It ended up being an 8 years war, because they didn't stop the fight. Whatever they were losing or not was irrelevant. They didn't stop the fight. No one would be able to take over.
8 years non-stop fighting.
8 years non-stop fighting. So my concern here is that if Israel start a war on Iran, which seems to be what Netanyahu would like to do, then the conflict will be long, and you and I will speak of that in the next 4 or 5 years in this very show. But it's not too late. It's not too late to call for actions and to whatever circle you guys can have to say, no, we do not want Israel to start a new war in Middle East. We believe that whatever self-defense they were doing, let's call it like this, is done by now. They got attacked by the Hamas on 7th of October. They killed the Hamas leader, and they destroyed all Gaza. That should be enough. 80% of Gaza destroyed, and 40,000 soldiers of Hezbollah being killed. That should be enough. That should be enough. If you want to retaliate and you say no, it's enough. It's enough. They don't need to attack Hezbollah. They don't need to attack Lebanon. They don't need to attack Iran, because that is going to lead to a war that I believe and I suspect would be a really long one, a really, really long one with a lot of deaf people. And it's a region with a lot of young people, and we know that when there's a lot of young people, there's the killings are heaven. Yeah, you're killing the future. Yeah.
But now, if America was a neutral country, a neutral force, a neutral arbiter, wouldn't this be the right time now to come in and say, hey guys, we must stop fighting and cease fire and speak on the table? They are losing it because definitely everybody shows that they have a side.
Yeah.
So you can't pretend to be an arbiter.
No, you can't be a ref.
You're coming with a side. You have a side already.
Yeah.
Just like they have failed in Ukraine.
Yeah.
You are coming to intervene in Ukraine with a side.
Yeah.
You're even arming one side of the conflict. You're arming them.
Giving them weapons.
But at the same time you're arming them, you're also supplying food for their own benefit. Ukrainian food, grain, is not finding a market, but American grain is finding a market in Ukraine.
Listen, like this is interesting that
so
you
they are,
bring the grain
they are
question.
causing conflict in Ukraine to enable them sell
It's very interesting.
in a conflicted war zone.
And who is going to take the markets that the Russian lose? Like it's going to be American companies, and that's why it's interesting to see also what happening in the Middle East in the same lens. I've been told yesterday that Iran provides 60% of the food of Qatar, Arabia Saudi, and Yemeni, and different countries around Middle East. They are the farm of that region. And so what I've been told as well is that by destroying the agriculture of Iran, by fighting Iran, what they do is they also allow foreign powers to now supply food, right? So Americans would be able to sell food maybe to Middle East on a larger scale if Iran was not taking that positions. And it's true that countries like Qatar don't have an agriculture, but yet they have a lot of people that want to eat. So where does that food come from? It comes from Iran. So if Israel attack Iran, Middle East for a certain time will starve, right? And who is going to bring them food? The Americans.
It's America.
So, it's always about the money. They are expanding. For them, supporting Israel and organizing an order that is beneficial to Israel is establishing an order that is beneficial to American capital. And if you look at the way they attacked Iraq in 2004 with false accusation, and the amount of money American companies have made in Iraq and Afghanistan since that intervention, so 2004 for Iraq and 2001 for Afghanistan, I've heard that they made $100 billion of profit. American company made $100 billion of profit in Iraq because they now resupply everything. It's simple, Irumba. I can explain it like this. You destroy your house with my bomb, right? And I come to rebuild your house. So I win twice. First you buy my bomb, and second time I'm rebuilding your house. So now the house, the money that you spent is coming for me, right? So there's definitely always within those geopoliticals like element of control. Who control the petrol and the gas of Middle East? Right now Iranians stand strong and decide who they sell it to and who they don't sell it to. And they decide to sell it more and more to China, which Americans obviously don't like. So disciplining regime that take a bit of a deviation from the economic order is the best way for American company to re-establish that order and reorganize profit. Remember, the paradigm of Americans is very simple. If we make trade together, we will be at peace. And so they think that when they impose their trade, when they impose their civilization and their economy, they think that they're developing peace. What they don't understand is that they're destroying cultures and they're destroying like long history. And that's what people resist. That's what people resist.
Pan-African Pyramid Weekly Roundup with Lissafri Thomas from France, a freelance journalist and a recipient of the most prestigious Pan-African Pyramid Global Award. Comrade Lissafri, what else do you read in the Middle East politics with America?
What?
What else do you read from this Middle East conflict?
No, listen, us...
you know, when you look at the entire Middle East, it's now becoming unstable. Then you look at what is happening in Ukraine and Russia. is this, a recipe for Third World War? And if that happened, who is the winner?
We're definitely living in a time on which borders, like the global order built after the Second World War in 1945, is being destabilized, and a lot of countries have decided to renegotiate their border themselves. Russia is saying Crimea is mine. I'm taking back Crimea. I'm changing the borders. When according to the United Nations, you can only change your borders when both countries agree and all the for the international community to agree, we're going to take it by force, right? But looking at it from an African perspective, the question is like, which type of conflict could emerge here outside on border issues? Which country have border issues, and which country would be interested into dividing a nation so they can reshape the borders? And in that conversation, I'm definitely confident that Congo is on the line, and that there is a lot of powerful forces that want to reorganize Congo borders, and they want to reshape it to make it more profitable for global capitalism. Because right now,
more profitable to them or not to Congolese?
No, not to Congolese, of course not to Congolese.
More profitable to them?
More profitable for global capital. Right now it's a bit complicated to buy, for example, the coltan. The coltan of Congo, Congo is the first producer of coltan in the world, and this is an important element to electrical cars, right? The battery of electrical cars. But now there's activists that have said that it's kids that work on those mines, and the US have a law that says you cannot mine and use minerals that come from conflict or that have been mined by kids. So now they're not so sure about where to buy that coltan anymore, because some activists have revealed that those are kids working on those mines. So in order to reorganize and to make everything like look more clean, but really like to drag out of Congo the resources for global capitalism, I do believe that there's a lot of people right now thinking of how to reorganize that country and to make sure that whatever is in the east and the south end up in China and India and those countries that are trying to build the third revolution. But from an African perspective to this conflict is to say, what do we do of our current borders? If the rest of the world is fighting against those borders that have been inherited from that unfair time, what do we do here in terms of our borders? And us as Pan-African, we also like this borders theme, because we know those borders are fake. We know that they are weakening our countries, they're weakening our people, they're weakening our society, they divide people that are similar and that could have similar political goal. So we definitely might enter, on a positive note, we might enter a moment where borders will be reshaped and Pan-African will have a bigger say into how to reshape those borders. And when we will hear of border conflict, as Pan-African, we always need to be front line. But getting back to the Palestinian questions, did you know that Hezbollah, right, the paramilitary groups that have been in a fight with Israel right now, that Israel has disseminated, do you know that he financed himself from Africa?
Wait a minute.
We can say that Israel got finance and project from the US, but where does Hezbollah get his money? I told you he comes from Iran, but not only. He comes also from Africa.
Some African countries are financing Hezbollah? Is that the point?
So the money, Hezbollah has established a strong economic network in Africa towards Lebanese Shia. And so there is a lot of, especially in West Africa, in Ivory Coast there's 80,000 Lebanese, right?
80,000
Lebanese, right? Which is almost twice more than there is Indian in Uganda, right? So the double population of Indian Ugandans. In Dakar is the same. You also have a strong population of Lebanese, really established, really powerful. They are there, similar like Indian. They are there since 3 or 4 generations, right? So they can be called like Ivorians or Senegalese. A lot of them are Shia, because the Shia community have been attacked by Israel quite a lot, and so a lot of them have lost their house in the previous war, especially the war of 2010 and 2011. So those guys, when they lost their house, they went to West Africa because they used to have like cousin or family there, right? And they start to establish businesses, and in those businesses, every single Lebanese businesses need to pay a tax to Hezbollah. So there's some research that have been showing that a lot of business, Lebanese business in West Africa, not all of them obviously, are sending back money to Lebanon, and part of that money is used to be given to the Hezbollah, so the fighters and the weapons also reach that, and Hezbollah can play its role of fighting Israel and making sure there's a imbalance of power between Israel and Lebanon. Hezbollah is like the middle forces in between of Lebanese people that have nothing to do with the war and Israeli soldiers that are trying to attack Lebanon. So yes, we might think, we always think that Africa is outside of those big dynamics, big conflict, but in this show we have proven that Netanyahu, as a prime minister, as a violent radical prime minister, the origin of that violence is also from the killing of his father that happened here in Africa.
In Entebbe.
And the money that Hezbollah is sending, and especially the rockets that they managed to send towards the north of Israel, are also financed by people that are in Africa today, make money in Africa, send back money to that group, and so that group does its mission. We are as Pan-African, we should reiterate that we are in favor of peace. We are in favor of peace, and there should be peace in Middle East. There should be a place for everyone in Middle East. But with this type of behaviors, right now, the Israeli do not seem to be willing to build peace.
The Israeli, Netanyahu, Benjamin.
They're not willing to do so. They're not willing to do so. And so if we can finance, one thing that I would like people to understand is that if a small community like the Lebanese of Africa can finance a strong paramilitary group like the Hezbollah, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? Because clearly that they build a solid agenda, right? They build a solid agenda. And my argument here is not to say we should finance like rebel movements or paramilitaries army, but we should also be aware of the fact that when we organize and we mobilize, we can have a say in the global stage, and it's not going to be the US and Russia forever. Mm-hmm. One day it can be us.
One day it will be us.
One day it will be us.
Actually, Africa is on the rise.
It's on the rise.
Africa is on the rise, and fortunately, the countries that we used to think they are first world, mm-hmm. America, so on, they themselves are realizing that they are nothing without Africa.
Yeah.
We fear them that they're in the first world, but actually they know that without Africa, even the worlds we are talking about are just in oblivion. First world, second world, third world, it is just a thinking. But a first world, if it cannot live with a third world country, then what is that first world? And if France, you're from France, if you can't live without Africa, but you're saying you're first world and I'm third world, then what is that first world? Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. It's more interesting to see it as a center and the periphery. The capitalist center is the global north, and in order to be rich, it needs to take resources from the periphery. The periphery is all of us, what they call the third world, right? They are rich because we are poor, to make it clear. But as you say, things are changing, and one of the big change is that those imperialism of the global north, American, French, British, German, Italian, they have been highly challenged by new powers. And right now, many Africans around this continent are choosing China over France, are choosing Russia over the US. They are shifting alliances because they realized that nothing was given to them. Nothing was given to them, and they were not treated with respect.
Instead, everything was taken out of them.
Everything was taken out of them. And now that they see, I'm not saying that I don't believe, unfortunately, that the Chinese are going to be slightly different. I wish, but I do believe that the Chinese also have an economic agenda.
They are also capitalists.
But they also respect their own sovereignty. They respect their own dignity, right? So if we can agree on sovereignty and dignity, we will already have a better relationship with those new powers than with those that were here before and not sharing information, not communicating with each other, and always like trying to portray themselves as the safest of something that they created and they made wrong. It's the problem. It's not how Africa is. It's not how Africa is.
Actually, I think that China also, just like it is America first, it is also China first.
Yeah, yeah.
They're here for their interest.
And we have
The difference is that for them, when they're here, they are totally silent about what you are doing about your people. That's not their business.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing to your people, whether you're having them for supper, or for breakfast, or for lunch, that's not their business. Their business is where are the resources.
Yeah, but we should not confuse fox with wolf. Chinese
Fox
are not.
with wolf.
Yeah. Chinese, they are wolf. So right now we know that they have opened that dam last week, right? There's that new dam, Karuma Dam. And it has been done thanks to also Chinese investments, and it's really good news for the country. We're going to produce more electricity, so electricity will be cheaper, so we can sell it.
But we only end up speaking it, Mr. Lisafri, saying that when Karuma opens, electricity will be cheaper.
No, but
by the time it is open, it's a different style, my friend.
So apparently,
when we were talking about opening this dam here, the biggest dam,
they
said the power is going to be cheap. Is it cheap?
It's not cheap yet.
It's not cheap.
So can I tell you what I think it is?
So it's just politics.
And I think it's a really interesting case example of how China functions.
See, right now they're saying when we start our oil will be cheaper here. You wait and see.
They say for the oil, but then now they say they're not going to reduce, right? No, the problem with the Chinese, let me tell you on that dam, because Uganda is going to pay $780 million per year to reimburse the Chinese on that dam, which is fair. They finance the dam, we needed the dam, we okay with this type of deal, right? No, the problem is, what if Uganda do not reimburse? What if they don't pay, right? What do? They take control of the dam and they decide whoever they send the electricity to. So they can decide like to don't give electricity to Uganda and to give it to South Sudan and Kenya only, because maybe they pay better or something like this. So the problem of those type of things is it's a debt trap. Until you pay back the money, it's okay. But remember, they are also the one that buy you minerals that help you to pay back the money. So they have a role that is really, really blurry and really powerful. And so what we don't want is African infrastructure to end up in the hand of Chinese government or Chinese companies because of another debt trap. And we know that the debt trap have happened and have cost the entire generations like a lot, including educations. There were much better education in 1980 in most African countries than after the debt trap of the 1990s and the IMF having to the IMF imposure on their policy. So the point is clear that China is not much better. We need to be careful on those things. And when it comes to that dam, we need to be definitely asking ourselves who is going to benefit that electricity, because we know who is paying for it. The nation is paying for it, Uganda is paying for it, but who is going to benefit that electricity? Is it going to be the people in villages that are not yet connected to electricity, which would be great? Or is it going to be Kenyan capital because they need more electricity, because they have good industries, and so we are going to send our electricity to Kenyan industries to overpower us in Uganda? We need to be careful of those dynamics,
All right. On a later note, did you follow General Jose Kainerugab's Twitter with the exchange with the U.S. ambassador in Uganda? Did you follow that?
No. Did he? When was that?
Last week, last week there was fire on the Twitter.
No, you know me, I'm not on X, but I can tell you, whatever he tweet, I know. Whatever he tweet, we know, because it's always such a... What did he say again?
I don't know that you followed it, but General Moses, CDF, the son of the president, was demanding an apology from the U.S. ambassador to Uganda because of his comments in Uganda.
What did the ambassador of the U.S. say?
To begin with, US, of course, on the recommendation of the US ambassador here in Uganda, they have put restrictions on 4 police officers in Uganda.
Okay. Yeah. So 4 police officers cannot travel to the US?
They cannot travel, They cannot travel.
On the basis of what?
That they among other things, they tortured.
Okay. On the basis of torture?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know what you can say about
So what did he? So we might speak about that maybe next week. I don't know the case too much.
Okay.
But what I know is that the use of Twitter by Ugandan's politicians and Ugandan elite is a really clever move, because Ugandans are really young, and so when they use X and Twitter and those platforms, they definitely are really much more influential than if they use TV or radio simply. I do not know what the general move.
The context in Mhosi's comment is Pan-African in nature. You know that. That's why I like you. I like him. And something back I appointed him. He's my deputy.
Okay.
We have another front. He's my deputy in. We have our club.
Okay.
People who speak what others feel. By the way, you should add you also.
Okay.
You also among the people who speak what others feel.
No, definitely I'm Mutatina.
You are Mutatina. Yes.
There's no doubt.
I have added you from today. I have added you in that club.
Okay.
So he's my deputy, General Mose. I like his comments. You know why? The suffering. If you believe America is the headmaster of the world, and they are self-appointed.
Yes, they're self-appointed.
They are the prefects of self-appointed headmasters of the world.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, you the headmaster of this school called the Global World. You realize that in Uganda there is a murderer. You have the power to act on him.
Okay.
But what do? You say, please, Lisafra, never step in America. Have you solved the problem of the Ugandans?
No, you haven't solved no problem.
You have not solved the problem.
You have not solved the
You
problem.
have said you are the headmaster, self-appointed headmaster of a school called the World.
Yes.
If there is a Lisafra in Uganda,
yes,
who is killing people, don't simply say never come to America. No, go pick him and put him to right place.
Yeah. Correct.
Or work with the organs of the state, or organs of AU, or organs of ICC, or whoever you want. After all, you control the world. Make sure that Mutatina is put out of saturation. Kept out of saturation.
Correct.
That is when I will say you are solving a problem. But for you, let me finish my point. For you to be pretending that you have solutions for the world.
Yes.
And you hear a thief is in a village called Kisasi.
Yes.
And you say, never cross to Ntinda. And you now say, I have solved the problem. What have you solved? That thief is going to continue stealing people in Kisasi.
When did the American ambassador say that? Was it last week?
Last week they issued the
So can I add something? So last week, at the moment where Israel was bombing Lebanon, with 80 bombs that are super sophisticated, no tweet was, no message was done by no embassy.
From America,
right? But at the moment where 4 policemen here were caught allegedly
having tortured some people, they have issued.
Were those people Americans or were they Ugandans? They were Ugandans there.
Yes.
So you're telling me that those guys keep? Maybe that's why they didn't see what happened in Lebanon and Iran, because they were busy looking at Uganda. They got confused. Maybe their glasses were not adjusted. They looked too much.
They need to adjust their glasses.
This is hypocrisy. This is hypocrisy of
the highest order.
Even without looking at Muzi answers, which I haven't read, so I can't comment. But even without looking at this is highly hypocrite for America, which have been organizing torture since a long time, which by the way they learned from the French. One day we should speak of that.
From your country.
How did the CIA learn from the French about how to torture freedom fighters? That's a really interesting topic we should speak of. Mr. Ozares. You can check Mr. Ozares. You will see.
On Google.
He taught torture to a lot of bad regime in the world, including the CIA. Anyway, so when those guys like go and torture, they have secret prisons, right? They have secret prison where they torture in Afghanistan, in Guantanamo, in Ukraine, in all those places. They have tortured themselves. Cuba, like Guantanamo Bay is in Cuba. And so now, for them to come to Uganda and say that, those people are banned and tortured. They should ban American first. America.
You see what is annoying me? They are simply giving travel restrictions. Don't come here. So if I've been killing people in Uganda.
Yeah.
Not coming to America is a punishment enough.
What type of thing is that? Yeah,
That is hopelessness.
Like what type
and that is hoodwinking. That is pretense
it's a
that you have a solution. You don't have a solution. I want America to come to Uganda, working with whichever international agency, security agency. They have ICC. They have what? They have them. Come here. Pick people who are torturing people. Take them to Cuba, Guantanamo Bay. That's your base. Take them there. Let them keep there. Keep them out of saturation of normal people. I will say you have solved the problem. But for you say, you're in Kisas torturing people. Stay there. Don't come here. You are stupid. You are hopeless.
For this one, eh?
Now, on the other, as we end up on the other later note, last week I officially received the letter, an appreciation letter from El Comandante's family. El Comandante
Fidel Castro.
Appreciating our works as Pan-African Freedom, but also for recognizing his works as Fidel and Cuban country as a whole country.
That's amazing.
For Cuba has been in Africa.
No, I know the history of Cuba in Africa is amazing. Cuba is the only forces in all African history that came with voluntary people, so they were not like forced people like American, like other armies. They were all blacks. So Cubans used to send their black soldiers to Africa to liberate and fight colonialism here in Africa, especially in Angola, South Africa. The independence of Namibia in 1991 is due to Cubans' presence in Angola. Cubans fight back apartheid and were the very first black army made of black soldiers that fight the racist supremacist army of South Africa that at the time is supported by America again, right? The very same one that are complaining about the torture of people here used to support apartheid South Africa. So they used to give weapons to apartheid South Africa to fight the freedom fighters of Angola. And the freedom fighters of Angola received help from Cuba. And Cuba sent so much troops at a moment where America could make a coup d'etat in Cuba. America could organize a coup d'etat in Cuba, but Cubans decided to take their own troops to send them to Angola to fight, and not only to fight. Cuito Canavalo. Go and Google it. If you're Pan-African and you don't know about Cuito Canavalo, you go and you Google it. This is the time when South African freedom fighters with Cuban forces, black soldiers, all united to defeat the army of apartheid, to defeat apartheid in Angola, and open the negotiation for the independence of Namibia. And Namibia got independence thanks to that victory. Otherwise, Namibia was a colony of South Africa. Within Africa, Namibia was a colony.
South Africa was colonizing Namibia.
He was he has Namibia as what they call it, a protectorate, as they call it. So Namibia was not an independent country; it was also ruled by white minorities.
South Africa,
right? And in order for them to become independent, especially the SWAPO, it took Cuba to send an entire black army of volunteers to fight against imperialism in Angola and restore the hope that the South African military will not win again and again and again and again. And the fact that they managed to stop South African military opened the door for diplomacy and the release of Nelson Mandela and the independence of Namibia. Yes, thanks to Cuban. The end of apartheid is definitely, of course, black South Africans are fight for their own independence, right? But they did receive the support of Cubans. And until today, when South Africa was in trouble with COVID, Cubans sent doctors. Chinese send masks. Cubans send their own doctors here. They send no, it's a big difference. It's very important.
China send masks.
So we
Cuba send human beings.
Human beings to come to sell to.
If you die from there, you die on mission.
And do you think do you think like Cuba didn't have COVID? Of course Cuba had COVID, but Cuba had established a policy and a diplomacy of medicine. And they say, we're not going to sell weapons like Americans or Chinese or French people do. We are sending doctors. That's what the country needs. That's what the people need. And Irumba, if I tell you that Kenya is sending us weapons, we're gonna be like, but to fight who? It's a bit blurry, right? If you hear that Kenya is sending doctors, they're doing the right things.
Yeah,
they're doing the right things.
If Kenya is sending doctors to Haiti,
that's okay.
But if they're sending guns to fight who?
It's a problem. And so the Cubans have based their diplomacy on helping the people for real. And what they've done is they have helped their own people fast. Cuban doctors are part of the best in the world. Americans goes to Cuba in order to get medicine that is better and cheaper. Because in the US, medicine is really expensive, especially eyes medicine. When they travel to Cuba, they receive really good medicine for cheaper price. And that is thanks to what? A socialist country that have decided from the beginning to put a lot of money into education of doctors rather than education of soldiers or secret service or engineers that engineers
CIA, MI16.
You need to have. We understand the history of those socialist countries because they've been under attack from imperialist forces, seed and won. So we can shed another light into like the type of alliance that we can do with the world. We managed to do a really profitable alliance for Africans and Cubans between Cuba and Africa, and we didn't manage to do that with America or Russia. So we should also show this light. We should make a video on the history of Cuba in liberation of Africa.
Very good. I don't want people to think I am reading. I am the one who wrote. You be the one to read for them.
I'm reading this one, eh?
Read from the beginning.
On the 26th of August 2023, on the occasion of 6th Pan-African Global Award ceremony, the life and work of Fidel Castro Ruz, leader of the Cuban Revolution, was recognized. And this afforded an opportunity to highlight the historical and indestructible ties between Cuba and Africa. Since then, we have maintained our ties with Andrew Irumba, leader of the Pan-African Pyramid Organization, a passionate communicator and Pan-African activist, who is also permanent source of inspiration for all those of us who in our respective capacities believe in Africa, rising up to its challenges in order to achieve the necessary political stability and economic and social development it deserves. In building Africa as an imperative, the education of the new generation is essential. That's what we're doing here. That's what they're recognizing. Education of the next generation. That's really what we're doing. And this subject become a permanent topic of exchange with Andrew Irumba, in our opinion, the main focus of his Pan-Africanist projects. For Africa and Uganda are the world's youngest continents, and the country respectively are committed to preparing the present and the future leaders. We shall concrete, among other things, the implementation of the ambitious agenda of 2063, which they're referring to the African Union 2023 agenda. For this reason, with the framework of the 15th anniversary of diplomatic relations between Uganda and Cuba, and banking on the same to hold another ceremony corresponding to the 7 Pan-African Pyramid Global Awards, we are pleased to share articles by Cuban academics that demonstrate Cuba's Pan-Africanist vision and commitment as a modest contribution to the Afro-Remittance education of the upcoming generation. This is amazing.
Signed by who? You read. Signed by who?
Signed by Tanya Perez Chiquez. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Ambassador of the Republic of Uganda, of Cuba in Uganda. Properly stamped. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Cuba, for all what you have done. Thank you so much, Irumba, for
our works are being appreciated?
Definitely. We need to have a
do you know what it means? The family of El Commandant Fidel Castro.
It's
Fidel Castro. El Commandant. To appreciate your work in Uganda here. Irumba.
Which other revolutionary can claim
my friend,
his revolution is still alive?
Even if I die today.
Yeah, you have made it. You have made it.
I have made it.
No,
I've done my mission.
We're planting seed.
Yeah.
And those seeds grows into trees. We are in a historical moment. Ugandans have a lot of young people that are looking and seeking for a solution, political solution for the continent, for the Pan-African agenda, and we are definitely contributing to opening this capacity and building those capacities.
They actually brought this is the book. This is the part of the history we're going to be sharing.
Amazing.
If you can see.
Amazing.
This is
diplomatic relations.
Cuba-Uganda, 1974-2024. Diplomatic relations. 50 years of diplomatic relations with Uganda and Cuba. 50 years. So I'm also inside here. I'm in here.
Okay. So we're going to do a special,
the first page.
One.
This is what we read. This is what you are reading.
Yes.
The first page is talk about our works.
Yes. Amazing.
Between the Pan-African Pyramid and Irumba and Cuba.
Yes.
Now, this is the history.
America Cabral, definitely.
Paradigm of Pan-Africanist thought and action.
Yes.
America Cabral.
Amazing.
This is written by Cuba America Cabral. So we are going to be sharing this history.
You know what we should do? We should invite those people that wrote those articles that are really aware of what Cuba has done for Pan-African movement.
Education for decolonization.
Perspective by
Education for
Ferrer.
the education thought of America Cabral from the perspective of Paulo Freire.
Paulo Ferrer.
Paulo Freire.
Paulo Ferrer is the man in the history of the world that have educated the most people. So he has moved people, analphabet people. He developed a technique of learning how to read for adults that was so successful that many millions of people in Latin America start to read thanks to his techniques, because they were dropped out of school and they managed to learn how to read thanks to Paulo Ferrer method.
West Africa between conflict and negotiation, rivalry, but they need each other, and the debate on concepts and budgets of national sovereignty. The America Cabral concept. Cuba.
Amazing.
We are going to share this.
Amazing work.
Oh, Cuba.
We will do a special emission.
Special edition, yeah.
One of my favorite pictures, by the way, that have been on my wall screen for a long time, is that picture of Fidel Castro and Thomas Sankara. Because you know Fidel Castro loved Thomas Sankara. Yeah. Fidel Castro used to love Thomas Sankara really hard, and he used to say he was one of the leaders he would like to speak with the most.
They gave me 3 books. I'm going to give you one.
Definitely. I'm going to read this one.
Take that.
And we are going to make a show, and we're going to invite those people that are speaking there, and we're going to invite them to tell us.
So that
what
is you as my brother.
Definitely, and it's an amazing.
And on that note, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, dear comrades, for being part of this Pan-African Pyramid Weekly Roundtable, where we simply take you around the world in 1 hour. Definitely. In a Pan-African perspective with my comrade Thomas Le Saffry from France. Thomas Le Saffry is a freelance journalist.